Many of my students cracked interviews and got offer letters and new jobs after watching my videos, and I believe you can also do the same. Hello friends, as you already know, React has the most jobs in market. Now to get the job and for cracking the interviews of React, today I am going to cover the top 10 React interview questions for candidates having 1 to 2 years of experience in React. You can also treat this video as a mock interview for your practice. Just listen to the question, pause the video, think about your own answer and then listen to my answer. Hey, my name is Happy and I help candidates in cracking React interviews by posting React career videos, job videos, and interview guidance videos. If you don't want to miss those latest videos on React, then hit the like and subscribe button. Now let's start with the first question. How to set up React first project? This is not an interview question, but if you are new to React, then you can follow these steps to set up your React development environment. Okay, if you are experienced in React, then you can skip this question or you can watch to just revise the installation process. It will not take much time. These are the 5 steps to install React. I will show you how these steps work. Okay, first step is install Node.js from this link. Okay, this is the first step. Second step is install code editor for writing the code. Here is the VS Code link, but you can also use any other code editor for this. So it depends on you, but this is the most popular one. Next step is open the VS Code and then go to terminal, then new terminal, and then run this command npx create react app and then name of the project, like whatever you want to keep the name, the project name. Okay, so my app is the name of your project here. You can put it anything, and then when you will press enter, it will take around 5 to 6 minutes to create the first project for you. Then as a next step, your project folder is created. So now again in the VS Code, go to the file and open the folder. Go to just created. You have to open the folder which you just created. Okay, and then open it. Finally, here will be your first React project, my app. Okay, now to run this project, how we will run this project? Open the terminal with Ctrl+Tilde key and run this command npm start. If all is well, then your browser will automatically loaded like this, and this means your first application is ready to work on. And now you can change the web page as per your requirement. Whether React is a library or a framework, what is the difference between them? When we say library, then basically we are importing the libraries like this code at the top, and then we can use all the inbuilt functions of these libraries in our component. So that is the idea of library, right? Now the structure of code is simple here, like a function is there and later function will be exported for use, right? Nothing special. Whereas in case of frameworks, developers needs to follow a specific structure or pattern in their programming defined by the framework. Okay, like this is the Angular component code, and Angular is a framework, whereas React is a library. So that is the difference. Framework is a complete package and it defines its own rules. Okay, whereas React is a library is a thing which contain all the functions, which functions you can use in your project. That is the big difference. Okay, but nowadays React is also doing many things which a framework can do. So slowly I think it is also going to be in a framework mode. Okay, so great. Now you know React is commonly referred to as a JavaScript library, and the same information is written here. Alright friends, before we hit the next question, if you have not yet accepted my never give up challenge, then accept it. Make a promise and commitment to yourself. No matter how tough it gets, no matter how many rejections you will face, but you will never give up until you crack the interview. That is also my own struggle story with interviews. Accept this challenge by writing never give up in the comment section right now. Trust me, the moment you write it, you will feel an instant boost of confidence and motivation towards your goal. What is NPM? What is the role of Node Modules folder? If you remember, we installed NPM for developing React applications, right? Why do we install NPM for working on React project? The answer is NPM will create this node modules folder for our project, which will contain all the React libraries and dependencies needed for UI development. And we should never touch this folder. So what is NPM and why do we install NPM? NPM is used to manage the dependencies for React project, including the React library itself. Okay. In other words, NPM is the package manager that loads the node modules folder. If you will not install NPM, then you have to download all these React libraries one by yourself. In that case, you might miss some libraries, which will then impact your development time and your project as well, right? Therefore, NPM will install all the libraries at once and you do not need to download libraries separately. Now, what is Node Modules folder? As I said, Node Modules folder contains all the dependencies of the project, including the React libraries itself. That's it. What is the role of function and return statements inside App.js? If you see the App.js code, then here you will find this function starting with this function keyword. You have to remember 3 points about function. First, the function keyword is used to define a JavaScript function. And this JavaScript function represents your React component. Okay. Second point, function is like a placeholder, which contains all the code or logic of the component. Last point is, function takes in props as its arguments and return JSX. All points written here for later reference. Now, whenever this component is invoked from anywhere in the application, this function will be automatically called and run the code inside it. Okay. One more thing, you can also use the component using arrow function expression, which I will explain in another questions. Now, what is a return statement? Return is used to return the elements from the function. Okay. Basically, whatever elements you see in browser or UI are returned from this return block only. For example, from here we can return some div element or we can return some child component also. Then index.js React DOM package will render those elements in the DOM and the content will be displayed in the browser as a result. Now remember, this syntax is JSX, not HTML, which I will cover in another question. Can we have a function without a return inside App.js? This is like a scenario based question. For example, this is the code with a function. Now this is another way of writing the function without the function keyword, okay, and using this arrow function. This is called what? Arrow function expression, which I already explained in JavaScript, and this is from JavaScript only. If you are new to arrow function, then arrow function are also a way of writing the functions only, but with less code, okay. I have covered that in JavaScript. Now coming back to this question, here, if I comment this return keyword from here, then this div will not be returned to the browser, meaning there will be nothing to be displayed in the browser, right? No activity on browser will happen. But 90% of case, we need function with return statement to show some result in the browser. But sometimes we do not want to return any React element from the function. For example, we want to write some error log, some console log, some information. So like this only. Now in the console also you can see the output without the return statement. Okay, so the answer is yes, a function without a return statement is possible. In that case, your component will not render anything in the UI. The common use case is for logging purpose. In real application, we can have error logging components which do not return anything. That's it. Hi friends, just a small notification. This video is part of my full course Top 200 React Interview Questions, including topics like React Hooks, Redux, TypeScript, etc. All questions PDF book link is also present below in the description. So like these candidates who cracked the interviews and got offers via this course, and if you don't want to miss anything for your interviews, then you can try this course. Otherwise, no problem. Let's continue. Why should you avoid prop drilling? In how many ways you can avoid prop drilling? Okay, we already know what prop drilling is from previous question. Like this, we have to pass data from the root app components to its child and then grandchild component, right? That is prop drilling. But there is a problem. Suppose only child 2 needs the data from the root app component. Still, you have to pass the data to parent 2 from the root app, which does not even need it. And then only you will be able to pass the same data to the child 2, right? So that is the problem of unnecessary passing the data to the parent 2 component. Okay. Now to avoid this prop drilling problem, we can use this kind of mechanism. First, data is set into a central store, and then from whatever component you need the data, just pass it directly. Okay, here you do not have to follow the hierarchy, okay, which we were following earlier. Let's conclude the answer. Why to avoid prop drilling? Three reasons here. First, because of difficult maintenance. Prop drilling can make code harder to maintain as changes in the data flow require updates across multiple components, right? Multiple layers. Second, complexity. It increases code complexity and reduces what? Code readability. Third reason is debugging. Debugging becomes challenging when you are passing the properties from multiple layers of components, right? So that is also the problem. All right, now these are the 5 ways to avoid prop drilling: using the context API, using Redux, using component composition, callback function, and using custom hooks. I will cover all these points in separate questions in upcoming questions. And remember, explain only those ways in interviews. Tell only those ways which you can explain actually. Otherwise, the interviewer can ask a difficult follow-up question that you cannot answer. So in interviews, we have to avoid saying the words which we can't explain, right? What are React hooks? Which are the top React hooks? First thing is, hooks are just functions only, nothing else. But these functions are present inside the React libraries, which you can use or call in your application components to manage the state or for other things. Proper definition is, React hooks are inbuilt functions provided by React that allow functional components to use state and lifecycle features. Second point is, before hooks, class component lifecycle methods were used to maintain state in React application. But now hooks are getting more and more popular because they are for functional components rather than for class components. Okay, and functional components are more simpler. The last point is simple. React hooks, for them we have to import it from the React libraries like this. Second part of the question is, which are the top React hooks? And here is the list of main hooks with their one word use. Use state, use effect, use context, use reducer, callback, memo, useRef, and useLayoutEffect. These are the important ones. There are more hooks, but these are more important. I have also mentioned each hook use in just one word so that it can be very easy to remember, okay, for interviews. In the upcoming questions, I will explain these hooks and their uses in detail. After that, you can easily relate the hook with their use, which is written here. Okay, that's the answer. What is the role of useState hook and how it works? UseState is a hook provided by React to manage the state. Good, but in interviews, this answer is not enough. We should give some more details or pointers. First, I will quickly explain the code and will then share the pointers which are very easy to remember. Now, I hope you remember the stateful concept. Here is the same example. Here on the click button, the count must be incremented, and if that incremented value is successfully and simultaneously able to render in the DOM here in UI like this, that means your component is stateful. Now we will use the useState hook to implement this. First, we will import the useState hook from the React library. Then we have useState as our component name. Name can be anything. Then inside it, we first called the useState hook function. Remember, as per the hook best practice, we will always try to call the hooks at the beginning of component only. Okay. Now listen carefully about the useState hook working. This useState function accepts the parameter 0, which is nothing but the initial count or state value. Okay. Then this useState hook function will return an array with 2 elements. First element is the current state value, which we are assigning to the count variable. First time count value is 0. And the second element of the array written by this useState hook is a function which we will use to increment and update this count or state value. Basically, this function we will use to maintain the state of the count. That function then we are assigning to this set count variable, and yes, this is responsible to update and maintain the state. Also remember that this concept of assigning array elements to individual elements like this is called array destructuring in JavaScript. Array destructuring break the elements of the array and assign them to individual elements. Okay. Now if we see the UI code, here when the button is clicked at the bottom, the increment function will be called. And like this, inside the increment function, we will call our set count function, which will increment the current count value by 1 and update the same in the application state. So this will maintain the state, and that's how the state is updated, and the same will be rendered to the UI here in the paragraph element. Okay. So once again, remember the most important thing here. Set count function is a React library function that is returned by the useState hook, which is used to maintain the state. Also remember, the first statement useState hook function will be called only and only once when the component is loaded first time. After that, when you update the component by clicking the button again and again, then only the increment and therefore set count function will be called, but not the useState hook. Okay, great. This is the whole story of the working of useState hook. Now I will share the things which you should remember for the interviews. First, here is the simplest definition of the useState hook. Then here is the functioning of useState hook with its returned elements. Then the definition of array destructuring in the simplest word. And finally, we have the basic structure of using useState hook is also present here. All I already explained, but putting here so that if you want to revise it later, then you do not have to go through the whole video explanation again and again. Just a 5-second quick look or revision from the book is enough. Good, that's the answer to this question. What is the role of useEffect hook? How does it work and what is its use? Let me first share its real use because that is more important from interview point of view. For example, this is your React application and here is one big component here. Now here, some data is rendered initially directly when the component is loaded for the first time. The component will not be rendered or displayed first time without this data, okay? But as you can see here, after the UI displayed, some data is still loading and taking time to load in the UI. Although the component has already rendered on the page, right? So as a developer, you can render some data lately like this because that data might take more time to come from the external APIs. Okay. So this is what we call a side effect because it is not the part of the initial rendering or loading of the component. Okay, so the answer of this question when to use effect hook is the use effect hook in React is used to perform side effects on functional components. Okay. For example, data fetching from an API is an example, subscriptions or any other operation that needs to be performed after the component has been initially rendered. Now let's quickly see how it works and the real code example. First, we will import the useEffect hook from React library. Then here is our component, which name is useEffect or name can be anything. Inside, we will call the useEffect function or hook like this. See, this function useEffect will perform the side effect. UseEffect will accept two parameters. First, a complete callback function from here to this comma at the end. We call this effect function. Okay. Second parameter is the dependency array. Now listen carefully. When useEffect execute, then effect function execute first, which will call this below fetch data method, and hence the fetch data function will execute. In short, here we are fetching the data from the external API using async await approach from this URL. Then we are assigning the response received data JSON to this result. And finally, we are logging the data result in the console. Great. That is how effect function runs side effects and we are getting the data from the API's external data. Now here is the UI code. Right now we are printing the data in the console like this in the output. But if you want the same data to rendered in the UI also, then you also have to add the useState hook at the top and maintain the state of this data which is received to render the same into the UI. Okay. All right. And this second parameter of the useEffect hook is an dependency array, which I will cover in the next question in very much detail. Now let's summarize our learning for later revision. Here are 3 points to remember about useEffect. First, useEffect is called after the component renders. For example, to run side effects. Second point, useEffect function will accept two parameters, one effect function and second is the dependency array. That's it. Alright, congratulations for completing all the questions. If you have reached here, that means you have the courage and patience required for cracking the interviews. Just don't stop here and keep rolling until you get your goal. Okay, only one recommendation from my side. If you have not started yet, then start giving interviews. As I always said, interviews are the best form of learning. Interviews help you not just in learning, but if you are selected, the reward is very, very good. Okay. And if you are not selected, then remember, you will still lose nothing. Not giving interviews is even worse than facing rejections in interviews because not attending the exam means the opportunity is gone. Companies will hire someone else. They will not wait for you. Okay. But if you are rejected in interview, then at least you will learn new things and next time you are more prepared, right? So start giving interviews and do accept my never give up challenge until you crack the interview. Okay, accept the challenge now by writing never give up in the comment section. Finally, all the best from my side, and I will support you in your career journey by posting the interviews, careers, and the job videos continuously. Join my interview cracking community by pressing the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much.